buying stocks or ETFs daily has been a huge part of my success in dividend growth investing. Now this is because regardless of what the market is doing on a daily basis, consistent buys over a long time frame add up to substantial positions, and this is even if you were to be doing something like fractional daily purchases. Now in this video I'm going to share with you and show you an ETF that I've been buying almost every single day for years now. And then I'm of course going to share with you the position that this has created in my long-term portfolio. And of course show you the power of consistent buys over a long time frame with a powerful dividend growth ETF. Now if this kind of thing interests you, make sure to please drop a like down below and subscribe for more future content like this. Now before we go into the exact position that I'm talking about that I've been purchasing daily over years now, just a quick little bit of background on me. I am a 7-figure dividend growth investor that's been investing in the stock market for around 7 or so years. This right here, for example, is one of my dividend growth portfolios that's currently valued at just under $500,000 and it's made up of around 60 different positions. Now I do have different portfolios and different brokerages to stay under the insurance cap, but I tend to invest into stocks or ETFs that have a decent starting dividend yield and dividend growth included. Now for the position that I was talking about that I pretty much buy on a consistent basis, as you can see here, I pretty much buy one share of it almost every single day. I'm talking about the SCHD ETF for the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. Now this right here is just a filtered screen from all my purchases of SCHD in 2023 so far. And keep in mind, I've been buying SCHD even before then. And on a consistent basis, I pretty much normally just buy, say, one share per day on this portfolio. And some days when SCHD might be down a little bit more in price, I might grab even 3 or 4 shares. Now, as we keep scrolling back further and further and further, you can see that over time, over the last year or so, the amount of SCHD shares that I've been able to buy over a long time frame has most likely stacked up to a nice size position, which 100% does happen to be the case. I currently am sitting in just this one portfolio of around 179 shares of SCHD, which is one of my favorite long-term holdings, and we'll go over why here in a second, and currently sitting at around $12,500 worth of it. Now, of course, all of us are going to have a different amount of budget to be working with over said time frame, but regardless, even if you're able to purchase half of a share of SCHD, maybe every day or even every other day, the amount of shares over, let's just say, 1 year can definitely add up to a nice size position. Now, I know what you're probably wondering next. Well, why do I choose SCHD to be the ETF that I buy on a daily basis throughout my portfolios? Now, the reason being is that I'm currently a 31-year-old dividend growth investor, and although I do want an investment vehicle that's going to have growth potential long term, I also want something that's going to pay a nice dividend off the bat, to use the instant cash flow from dividends to either reinvest, and maybe even in the next few years here to use the money on bills or maybe just life expenses or maybe even some fun stuff. But that being said, as far as all the different stocks and ETFs across the market, there's lots of different ways to get to the same place, but the SCHD ETF or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF seems to cross off exactly what I'm looking for. It's an ETF that's pretty well diversified, has a good strategic way of picking its holdings in the underlying index, has had great growth potential as far as ETF price at least over the last 10-12 years, has a very cheap expense ratio of just 0.06%, and like I said a second ago, also has a nice starting dividend yield. But if I'm going to be completely honest with you all, one of the main reasons on why I choose to buy the SCHD ETF every single day for the most part and use this as sort of my foundational long-term holding throughout my stock market portfolio is because of the SCHD dividend growth rate. Now, without even going into the specific numbers, you can see that the SCHD ETF has paid more and more in dividends over the last 12 or so years, some years being more than less, but either way, things have moved up into the right quite substantially. Now, what this means is that every single day that I'm buying shares of SCHD, for example, SCHD as of right now is basically paying a set amount of dividends on a quarterly basis, but over time, these shares that I'm buying today, the shares that I bought 2 months ago, 3 months ago, these shares are most likely going to pay me more and more in the future, which is of course going to help me in multiple different ways, but especially against things like inflation and just other life expenses that are probably going to keep going up. Now, like I said a second ago, there's many other stocks and ETFs that you can find that also have things like growth potential, a nice starting dividend yield, and even dividend growth. And for me personally, over time, I probably will diversify and even start buying some other ETFs on a consistent daily basis. But for right now, I'm pretty set on trying to get to my goal of around, say, 1,000 shares of SCHD across all my portfolios, and I'm not going to stop until I get there. Now, the last thing I wanted to share with you all when it comes to daily purchases over a long time frame is to go plug some things into the Dividend Calculator and see how the power of compounding can really take place over a longer time frame. Now, I definitely recommend all of you guys to go on Google and type in Dividend Calculator and type in some different numbers that might make sense for you personally. When I started messing around with Dividend Calculators a while back, it was really fun because I could sort of forecast and see what my future could look like just with a few clicks of the mouse. But just for a real quick example and to show you the power of compounding very simply, if we took $10,000 and invested into SCHD, which is currently yielding around 3.7%, has an annual dividend amount increase of around 8% per year, a 3-year annual share price amount increase, $1,000 adding on top of that. So if you were to buy $1,000 more of SCHD over time, that's not really buying all that many shares throughout the weeks and months, but it still is going to add up to a consistent amount over time, as you are going to see here in a second. If we were to type this all in and look at it over a 30-year invested period, let's see what we get. So of course, at year number 1, the $10,000 is going to earn the investor $375 in annual dividends, and just with those dividends being reinvested back into more shares of SCHD, and also the annual contribution of just $1,000, by year number 2, this portfolio is already sitting at $11,618 of value and over $457 of annual dividends. So that's a pretty good increase year over year, considering this investor is not really adding that much, not even buying all that much SCHD on a daily basis, but the power of compounding is already going to start because of the reinvesting of the dividends and the consistent buys. But zooming out a little bit further, by year number 5, this investor would have around $17,243 of SCHD and around $784 of dividends per year. Now, if an investor was to stick with this $1,000 per year of SCHD, which is around $25 or so per week, not really that much at all, relatively speaking. This investor by 10 years in would have $1,754 of annual dividends, which again isn't necessarily all that much after 10 years of investing, but keep in mind, with the amount of money that we're working with, it's actually pretty impressive. Now, 20 years in, this investor would have $88,000 of SCHD and $8,300 plus of annual dividends, which now we're starting to get somewhere. Now, by year number 20 to 30, the numbers are going to get much bigger, much faster, because the law of big numbers takes place, and as the numbers get bigger, the reinvesting gets bigger, and just everything gets bigger. It's honestly pretty awesome. So by 25 years in, $161,000 in principal and over $19,000 per year in dividends. By year number 30, $322,000 and almost $50,000 per year in dividends from SCHD, which all started off with just a $10,000 investment, and keep in mind, just around $25 or so per week. Now, I love to look at charts like this because it really shows the power of compounding take place, and this is what dividend investors mean when they talk about their dividend snowball. I'm sure you've come across other videos or other people online that talk about building a dividend snowball and how to build a monster dividend portfolio. This is what they mean. You have to invest in a high quality stock or ETF, and again, it doesn't have to be SCHD, but a stock or ETF out there that pays more and more in dividends over time and continues to grow. Over time, if you invest in it long enough, you are going to see drastic results like this. So there we have it. That's one ETF that I've been purchasing almost every single day over the past few years, and I've been able to build a position that now pays me hundreds and hundreds of dollars per year in dividends just from those easy, simple daily purchases. Now, like I said earlier, I get it that not everyone has enough money necessarily in cash balance to be able to purchase an entire share of X, Y, or Z stock or ETF on a consistent basis, but even with brokers offering things like fractional share purchases, there's lots of different ways that investors can still get to where they want to go, even without the most money in the world. But now I want to hear from you guys down below if or if not, you will also personally take part in a daily purchase of a stock or ETF. And of course, comment down below, let us know which stock or ETF it is. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by. And if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.